Welcome to the local campaign here on Rogers TV. Thank you so much for joining us as we get closer and closer to October the 24th, Election Day. We turn our attention to municipal debates. Today's debate is with Ward 10, Gloucester-Southgate. And before I introduce our candidates, I'll go over today's format. So each candidate will have 60 seconds to open up with their opening statement. That will be done by random draw. So just a few moments ago, we made a random draw, and we will go through that. All candidates will have an opportunity for an opening statement. Then we'll move into the debate portion. We'll ask some questions, some topics that are on top of mind for residents in the ward and, of course, throughout the city of Ottawa. I will share that question to the candidate. They will have 45 seconds to open up with that, and then I open the floor to all candidates to debate on the topic, and then we go back to that candidate for whom I asked the question, and they will have 30 seconds to wrap up. So we'll go through that format with a number of different questions, and then we will wrap up, of course, with closing statements, and each candidate will have 60 seconds for their closing statement. So now I'll introduce you to our candidates. First up, we have Aria Alavi. Aria, welcome. Next, we have Hussein Mahmoud. Welcome, Hussein. Next, John Redins. Thank you for being here, John. Taylor Houstoun.
Thank you.
Thank you, Taylor. Ron Keays.
Thank you.
Ron, welcome. And Jessica Bradley.
Morning.
Good morning. Welcome. Thank you all for being here. Really appreciate it. So again, as I said, we'll start off with our opening statements, 60 seconds each. We start with you. Aria, you have 60 seconds.
First and foremost, thank you, Rogers TV and Derick, for hosting this event. Hello, everyone. My name is Aria Alavi, and I'm running to be the next city councillor in Ward 10. In the last 28 plus years, the ward has been neglected in so many ways. Lack of investment in affordable housing, horrible condition of road and some of the community housing, lack of proper investment in OC transport in order to provide efficient services to residents of Ottawa, lack of investment in green spaces, and increased crime rates are just examples of issues that the ward is facing off. On top, I'm the only candidate in the race that has imposed two-term limit on himself. I believe that city needs new ideas and visions every 4 to 8 years. If I don't deliver my promises to you in that time frame, I won't do that in 28 plus years either. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you very much. Next up is Hussein. You have 60 seconds.
Thank you, Derick, and thank you, Rogers TV, for the opportunity to introduce myself. I'm Hussein Mahmoud, and I'm running to be the next councillor of Gloucester-Southgate. I'm running to make our community safer, keep taxes low, and be the community's voice and advocate. The City of Ottawa is at a pivotal moment, and Gloucester-Southgate is no exception. Councillor Diane Deans is retiring after serving the community for 28 years, and this creates a unique opportunity to have a fresh voice and perspective at City Hall. For over a decade, I have worked and helped business owners in the city and across the ward. I have served the community as a volunteer executive and leader, and have made an impact on our youth by being a mentor to them. I have a young family and know what the struggles that families across our wards go through. On October 24th, I would be honored to have your support to move our community forward. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Hussein. Over to John Redins. You have 60 seconds.
Hello, I'm John Redins. Thank you for having me. I'm one of the candidates for Gloucester-Southgate. We stand on traditional lands of the First Nation communities of the Algonquin, and some maps show it's in Mohawk territory. I'm originally from the Ojibwe community. I moved here 17 years ago, and I've been helping. Hopefully, in the next hour, I can show my vision for the next 4 years. I look forward to this debate and moving forward. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much, John. Over to Taylor Houstoun. You have 60 seconds.
Thank you, Derick, and thank you to Rogers for hosting this. My name's Taylor Houstoun. I've lived in Gloucester-Southgate my whole life. I've seen the neighborhood change for good and bad. I don't have a long history in politics. I'll tell you that I'm an avid runner. I've got a background in project management and sales, and that I worry about the cost of living. But what is important is my plan for the ward. 5 main things: fixing the roads, adding more buses and investigating the LRT, protecting green space like the airport forest, building affordable, accessible housing with shops and green space woven in, increasing youth programming, and retooling policing to stop the increasing gun violence in the South. But on it all, I didn't feel like my voice was heard, that my issues were cared about. My platform is neighborhood by neighborhood. because what people on River Road need is not what people on Wisteria or Cahill need. I plan to be an accessible councillor.
Sorry, Taylor, that's time. Thank you very much. Over to Ron Keays. You have 60 seconds, Ron.
Good morning, I'm Ron Keays. I'm also running for election for Ward 10. I bring a wealth of experience to the role, including 20 years experience in a customer-facing position where I've spoken to about 100,000 Canadians over the course of the last 20 years. That's, well, I have no particular love of corporations or government for that matter. I do really enjoy listening to people and working towards a solution with them. I've lived in the Ottawa area most of my life, just about 2 years in the South Keys area. My fiancée, however, has lived there her whole life and is now teaching kindergarten at the school just down the street where she had attended when she was a child. I do believe strongly in inclusivity and competence and common sense, pragmatic solutions. Transit, housing, and the environment and civic engagement would be top of my list. We're expecting about 20,000 new Canadians to settle in Ottawa annually, and we have an opportunity with our surplus of transit with half-empty buses to allow those people to explore the city at no cost for a year, and that would be the pillar of my platform.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ron. Jessica Bradley, you have 60 seconds.
Well, first, thanks, Derick, for moderating today's debate, and thank you to Rogers TV for hosting this important discussion. My name's Jessica Bradley, and I am also running to be the next City Councillor for Gloucester-Southgate Ward. I have proudly worked for the residents of Gloucester-Southgate Ward for more than a decade. I'm passionate about this city, our community, and the residents who live here. I'm running because I'm excited about the opportunities for Gloucester-Southgate Ward, opportunities for new and affordable housing, for better transit, for improved connectivity, and for enhanced green spaces. I'm bringing a fresh perspective with a solid foundation. I know this city, I know City Hall, and I know how to get things done for residents. Gloucester-Southgate Ward needs a strong voice, and I can be that voice. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Jessica. We'll now turn our attention to the debate portion. As mentioned earlier, each candidate will have 45 seconds to open up the topic, and I start with Aria. Many feel there's been a lack of public consultation, a lack of transparency. How do you think we can get the views of residents heard better than we have so far? It's one of the big things that many people have been talking about so far in this campaign. Aria, you have 45 seconds to open.
Thank you, Derick, for the question. I think one of the missing components in the City Hall in the last decade was a strong leadership. We need councillors that can represent the needs of the residents in the City Council. And we need more engagement of the residents. When they report issues to us, we need to take those issues seriously. We need to reflect on those issues, and we need to find solutions for those issues. My plan is to implement very comprehensive policies that get things done for the residents. Once I hear a complaint or our suggestions or recommendations, I'll take it seriously and I will put it in front of the City Council for vote, and that's a key part of my platform in this election.
Okay, and you'll have 30 seconds to wrap up this topic, but just a reminder, people feel free, candidates, to jump in at any time. The floor is now open.
Yeah, so I also think that transparency and engagement is key to good government. There's been a growing sense amongst residents that decisions at City Hall are being made behind closed doors. I think that we will achieve transparency when residents start to see their priorities reflected in our city budgets, in our city services, in the programs that we provide, and in the policies that we create. So we need to really start to engage with our residents earlier on in the process. I think what I've heard is that we start engagement far too late, whether it be on a planning file or be in our city budget. It feels like decisions are already made. So my plan would be to start engagement earlier on these issues.
I think what needs to be done at City Hall is we need more collaboration with our councillors, our mayor, as well as the residents. A lot of people right now, candidates, are knocking on doors and talking to residents, and I think that should not only be a campaign strategy. We need a councillor that's accessible and that continues to reach out to our residents, make sure that their voices are heard, and that we're consulted on all matters that affect our city and our ward.
Transparency is...
Sorry, I just let Ron jump in here and then I'll come to you.
Yeah, thank you. I think we need to meet people where they are. We have a very diverse ward and all sorts of people with very different concerns, and I think we need to be able to listen to those concerns. And to that end, I will make time on my lunch hour every week going for a walk, and anyone in the city I will put it on my the website what time I'll be available, and anyone can just come up and talk. And of course, calling and emailing works as well. Any concerns, let me know.
Go ahead, Taylor.
Transparency is simple. You have to actually just be transparent. Rather than say the nice things and all the words everyone wants to hear, you actually have to go out and you have to just do that. Make available information. Talk to people, as everyone's saying. I've been knocking doors, and the issue with the LRT. Everyone knows that there was tons of secrecy there. Why? Why was it there? It doesn't make any sense to me. It doesn't make sense to a lot of the residents in the South. And at the end of the day, all you have to do is tell people what you're doing. It's really that simple.
John, did you want to get in here?
Yep, transparency, I would say, is you have to show up to these meetings regardless what time of day or night it is. I would consider putting more meetings in the evening of variable hours. I've been in since 2010. I've been showing up to budget deliberations yearly. I've been showing up to OC Transport meetings that were 8 hours to about 8 to 9 hours long, and just stay there and listen to what people are saying. No matter if you don't think you're being heard, show up. That's the thing. Like the other day, we had a candidates meet, the candidates forum. There were only a few of us there. If you want to represent the people, show up to the events.
Okay. Anyone else want to jump in here?
You know, great point. I think what John had mentioned is just being accessible. I think we're all, going to be talking about being advocates for our community and being accessible, and I think that's the key. We need to be in our community offices, making sure that we have an open door policy. At the end of the day, the job of a city councillor is a service-based role. We need to be there for our residents. We need to be able to hear their concerns and share their ideas and make sure that those voices, or their voices, are echoed at City Hall.
What I will add to this topic is that there's a lot of people asking for transparency when it comes to donations, in particular significant donations, developer-connected individuals. Some people are showing where their donations are coming from. So let's make this part of our public consultation and transparency topic. Does someone want to jump in on that, Ron?
Yeah, I believe absolutely in transparency when it comes to campaign finance on any level. And yes, as someone who's not particularly connected to developers, that's not going to be an issue for me. But yes, I do think making the information accessible on the public websites is absolutely critical so that people know who's paying for who's representing them.
Yeah,
I too think that it should be that all financial donations, donor lists should be not only released but should be mandated. It's simple, right? You should know where the money's coming from at all times. That way you can make an informed decision.
Yeah, I would agree with those points. I'm not taking developer donations as part of my campaign, and will release my donations as soon as possible.
As well, myself, I'm not accepting any donations from any known developers. I have no issues in sharing my files and adhering to the Municipal Act, so I have no problem in that.
And one thing about that is also too, if you are taking donations and you're on the planning committee, you should be there. You should announce that you're a conflict of interest representing that file. Unfortunately, we don't have that right now, and I hope the incoming mayor appoints people that don't take donations from developers.
Anybody else? We still have a few seconds here. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, same for me. I don't accept any donations from any developers. I believe we have to put ourselves in the shoe of the regular citizens that they work day to day. And I'm happy to say that I connected with so many residents in the ward, and I understand the feelings, I understand the struggles they go through. And my campaign will not accept any donations from any developer whatsoever.
If I could just jump in for a quick second, I'll also say that I'm also not taking any donations from any developers, just so it's clear.
Okay. All right, Aria, back to you. You have 30 seconds to wrap up on this topic.
Transparency is a key issue that is missing in the last decade in the City Hall. Any city councillor must be available for more meetings, for more consultations, to more late evening meetings with the residents. I'm committed to bring that to the table. That's part of the biggest issues that we have all across Ottawa, and I think this issue will be solved very easily, being more accessible to the voters, to the residents, and hear them loudly every single day.
Okay, thank you all very much. We move to our next topic. Again, 45 seconds to open up the topic, and we start with you, Hussein. There's a lot of concern over the city's growing debt. Where would you set tax increases over the next 4 years, taking that into account? You have 45 seconds.
Thank you, Derick, for the great question. I touched on earlier in my intro fiscal responsibility is a key topic for me. We need to ensure that taxes remain low. Right now, we're living in unprecedented times. With the increase of cost of living, inflationary rates, every resident is feeling it at the end of the day in their pockets. We need a council that keeps that in mind. We cannot create affordable housing by non-affordable means or affordable transit by not affordable means. So we need to be able to keep our residents in mind and ensure that we cap our rate at a 2% rate.
Okay, I'll open it up then to everybody. Just jump in. Feel free to jump in at any time.
$2.9 million investment into a business is not investing in people. We need to reevaluate where our monies are going. And one of the big issues here is, yes, we need development, but what expense is it on the burden of the taxpayer? And this is one thing I would bring up to the table is if they want to, their cost recoverable. We're not. We're dependent on transfer payments. Transfer payments are for safety. For example, the fire department don't have transfer payments from the province or the federal department. We're stuck with a bill for that. So these are some aspects that we have to bring up at all levels of government that taxes in, and also the tax impact. We have to get the legislation straightened out once and for all. It's quite confusing, especially all across Ontario. The impact, you own a cottage apartment somewhere, and the skyrocket. In some municipalities, it's below that. So
okay, thanks, John. Ron, go ahead.
Yeah, as councillor, I would endeavour to keep taxes as flat as possible, unless there's a compelling reason to increase them for providing extra services that are required. One way to balance the books would be to increase the surcharge for new homes that are over a certain threshold, like $500,000 or $400,000, and to help with affordable housing, provide incentives for houses that are built under that rate, and let the business community solve the problems we have and develop the revenue from there.
Yeah, I don't want to be naive. Inflation is running at over 7% this month, so we've got difficult decisions to make at City Hall. We need to balance priority investments that residents say they want, like affordable housing, better transit, more active transportation, and better parks and improved roads in our community. So we need to ensure that we're keeping our city affordable while making those investments. So, we haven't done a universal program review at the City of Ottawa since 2006. So I would suggest that we need to do a line-by-line review of our programs and services to ensure that they're still providing good value for your tax dollars.
I'm not going to do the politician thing and promise you that taxes are going to stay in a certain place. The fact of the matter is I don't know. I'm not there right now. But what I can say is that I think we can maintain them at roughly the rates that they are at. But we do have to be mindful of inflation. As it goes up, everything goes up. I agree with Jessica that we need to look over everything line by line. And we need to make smarter decisions. Look at the LRT in terms of waste. We also need to make sure that any breaks go to citizens, not corporations.
Aria, you wanted to jump in here? Go ahead.
Yeah, with inflation so high and the soaring prices of commodities, it's not the time to increase taxes on ordinary residents. We have seen over and over again in the city council that they gave tax breaks, tax incentives to big corporations, that they don't really need that. Right now, we need to focus on a general population, and it's not the time to increase taxes on hard-working people in the city of Ottawa. In fact, our job is to help them in any aspect possible, at least for the next 18 to 20 months that the federal government has predicted they're going to lower down the inflation rate.
So the challenge, though, is that inflation affects citizens, business, and governments across the board. So we don't have the capacity to take all of the inflation for Ottawa and put it onto the government. Plus, with transit fares or transit ridership being down, there's a loss of revenue there. I think we have to be very flexible and on the ball over the next few years as things unfold, because we really are living in a time where we can't say exactly what the budget's going to be in 2 years, what the revenues will be.
But
sorry, Hussein wants to. I just want to get Hussein in here. Go ahead.
Yeah, just to touch on that as well, property tax is not linked to any salary, so a regular family cannot afford an increase of 5 or 10% on their bottom line on property taxes, right? It's not going to, on a family that's working hard, and we see that inflation rates are increasing, but salaries are not increasing at the same level. So we need to ensure that property taxes remain where they are, and residents are able to, best fit their families.
Taylor,
Exactly.
go ahead.
I was talking to a pensioner the other day, and he was saying that his taxes, his municipal taxes, are going up so much that he might not even be able to afford to stay in his home, that he might have to go to a retirement community. The reality is that the city takes in a ton of tax revenue every single year, and with property values in some cases up in the $1 million range, the city is taking in a ton of money, and that money can be spent.
John, go ahead.
One thing is the LRT inquiry, what's that going to reflect on our budgets? Are we going to get future funding for LRT2 and LRT3? That's going to make a big, it might take a big chunk of our budget. We can't guess that we can't make promises that we can't keep, and it's frustrating to see this.
John, I'm just going to go to Jessica here for.
Yeah, I was just going to say
wrap
the city absolutely needs some more revenue-raising tools. I think many of my colleagues here have raised that we have limited ability to raise new money at the city because the property tax base is our main revenue source. So I would certainly advocate to the province that the city needs some new revenue-raising tools to make our city affordable.
Okay, that wraps up the topic, but Hussein, you have 30 seconds to wrap up yourself on the topic.
At the end of the day, the next term of council needs to work collaboratively. We've had a lot of divisive politics that have really spread city council. We need to work efficiently and effectively and collaborate with our municipal, federal and provincial partners to ensure that our budget is used effectively and in the ways that the residents of Ottawa and Gloucester-Southgate get their fair share.
All right, thank you very much. We'll move on to the next topic. We start with you, John. You'll have 45 seconds to open up this topic. Let's talk public transportation. People need our public transportation and our public transit to be reliable, affordable, and achievable. How would you go about trying to achieve some of those goals, and what are your thoughts on free transit for all? You have 45 seconds to open.
This is my reasoning behind, if you want to have a say, show up. I've been showing up to the Transit Commission meetings since 2010. The last few years, LRT has been big faces while regular transit and paratransit has been taking a back burner, creating low morale with customers and employees. We have to listen to the employees and customers that are being effective. If the next council move on another transit, I want to see a representative from the union reps and also an individual that uses paratransport. Right now, we don't have anything. The LRT inquiries have to be taken seriously, not collecting dust on the shelf. Also, I suggest that in the last municipal election, an independent review from top to bottom must happen. Thank you.
Okay,
I totally agree, John.
Go ahead, yeah.
The LRT inquiry needs to happen. And you know, since the LRT went in, bus service has been reduced, and that frankly just needs to be improved. Residents in River Road on Hunt Club, they have almost no service. On River Road, they're getting a bus a single day. Buses also need to run on time, and that involves retooling and rejigging the system that goes behind that and making sure that we just prioritize that efficiency. Not all of the transit, though, needs to be big buses. We can use shuttles and smaller things to get communities that don't need as much service to where they need to go. Fares need to be maintained or otherwise made lower. But you know, this is a simple case of build it and they will come, just like it used to be back in the 90s. People want transit, but it just needs to work. The LRT, for example, it just needs to run every day, and then people will use it.
Yeah, well, I think just to touch on that is we need a system that's safe, reliable, and convenient. We just talked about earlier about fiscal responsibility, so we cannot create affordable transit by non-affordable means. The residents, we all agree that the residents cannot burden an increase of 5 to 10% on their property taxes. What we need right now is to increase our confidence in the system. Ridership right now is at an all-time low in their confidence in the LRT, so we need to ensure that we have a safe and reliable and convenient system that is accessible for all residents.
And so we've invested $2.1 billion into LRT, and half of the city, the highest percentage in Canada, I believe, is work from home. So we don't need that capacity at the moment. It's also not operating optimally, but the reason it's down is because people aren't going downtown. We need to incentivize people to go do that, and I think giving free transit to people on ODSP and Ontario Works and to new Canadians, it would increase ridership potentially by a million people per month, and we're at half our previous rates at 4 million a month now. So we have the capacity. We're not doing anything with it. I think it's just those common sense solutions to create value where we've already spent the money. The LRT inquiry is important, but that's a problem, not a solution. We can't fix what's already happened 10 years ago. We need to act now to improve things moving forward.
I'm sorry, I disagree. I think that there are more people who want to use the transit right now than we are paying attention to. I don't think we actually have the capacity that we think we have, because I think it's been reduced significantly.
How can you say that if they're half full? I mean,
but they're not only half full. I mean, like I said, there are entire neighborhoods that don't get.
Half full?
And it's not like
At
people.
present, it's empty. I'm not sure.
You know what I'm hearing is that Gloucester-Southgate residents, they want to take transit, but they need it to be reliable and safe, which is really just the bare minimum that we should expect from a service that we provide as a city. We need it to be more than just reliable and safe. We need it to go where people want to go. We need to reimagine our transit system and figure out who our rider is today and who we're trying to attract in the future so that our transit system can be sustainable, so that we can grow our ridership as opposed to just keep the status quo. And affordability is a big part of that. So I would support a full review of our transit system so that it works for the people that want and need to use it.
Go ahead, John. You want to
OC
get in?
Transport tolls keep going up. Downtown parking keeps freezing. Where's the fairness in that? When people pay the same taxes and depend on reliable transit, it's unfair that they're taking pot shots in the last week of the cost involved. What is the actual cost? We haven't got an actual cost of how much per resident that if we added transit for free. I'm a pro-rate man. Based on your salary, what you can afford.
Okay, Aria, you want to get in?
Just one of the key elements missing in LRT was when they gave a $2 billion project to the third party, they didn't hold the third party accountable. Right now we are at the situation that there are too many issues with LRT. LRT is no longer accessible, no longer affordable. What the next city council has to do is to make sure they put the city managers in charge of any contract to this magnitude. When they give to the third party, they hold them accountable. That didn't happen in the last council, and that's why we are here today. So this issue can be fixed, and again, that goes back to the issue of transparency, which was missing in the city.
Yeah, and I think-
Unfortunately, the mayor has access to this information, and
Well, John, you're going to have 30 seconds to wrap up, so
yeah.
I'll just
Okay.
go to somebody else and then
Yeah,
you
I
guys.
think it's important to touch on the LRT when we talk about transit, and we did just go through a judicial inquiry, and recommendations from that will come out at the end of November. And I think that will touch on a lot of the points that Aria has raised here, in that we need recommendations to strengthen our procurement processes and our oversight and accountability frameworks at City Hall, because I think we can all agree it's not a secret that LRT was a huge disappointment, and that we need to strengthen those processes around those major projects so that residents can expect better from us.
And
But
we
again-
need data in order to improve the transit system going forward. There's no sense increasing bus capacity where it's not needed. And right now, again, the buses are half full. The more data we have, the higher the ridership we have, the better we can plan for next year, and
Yeah.
the more paying passengers we will have in next year and moving forward.
Correct.
I
We need
fully
more- we
agree.
need more
But at the end of the
residents
day,
to ride.
we also need to not just say the nice words again. We actually just need to do it.
Okay, Taylor, I'm just going to go to Hussein here quickly. You got 10
In order
seconds.
for the system to be efficient, we need ridership. So we need to increase incentives, and at the end of the day, we need to make transportation safe, reliable, and convenient for our users to use it.
All right, John, you'll have 30 seconds to wrap up on this
one of
topic.
the big things is accessible transit in this city. With Uber online now, we don't have accessible taxi. The drivers can't afford riding a cab, picking up people. We have left people from Carleton Place at Via Rail, couldn't get a bus, couldn't get a taxi to drive them home. These are other issues that are being ignored because we're spending so much time on the LRT file.
All right, thank you very much to all of our candidates. Taylor, you'll start off this next discussion. You'll have 45 seconds to open up.
All right, thank you.
Let's talk about the environment and climate change. It's come up often during the
please.
campaign. What can the municipality do? What can the city do at a municipal level to help combat climate change? You have 45 seconds.
All right, there's actually a ton of things we can do. So one, as we were just talking about, we can prioritize accessible transit to help reduce emissions. We can look at the city level adopting more electric vehicles and getting charging stations put in at gas stations. We can look into modern, filtered, and net neutral incineration techniques for garbage. Beyond that, we can continue work from home, which has also reduced emissions already significantly, but we know that businesses and other countries are the biggest climate offenders, more than any individual. Now, CO2 air removal technology is actually almost viable. It's basically right there at this point. And I think the city should take on initiatives to put these in buildings, on top of buildings, and begin filtering our air and otherwise approaching a new climate strategy.
All right, thank you very much. I open it up.
Federal government has announced that they'll be planting 2 billion trees across Canada in the next 10 years. So if elected, I will collaborate with my partners in both the federal and provincial governments to ensure that Ottawa and Gloucester-Southgate get its fair share of trees.
Ron?
Yeah, I think our next pending issue is filling our next dump, our next landfill site, because the current one is filling up, and doing that in an environmentally sensible way. There are lots of new technologies and new processes that are out there, and it's just a matter of investigating them, see which ones are right for the climate and what we have there. And of course, yes, the LRT in theory should be reducing drivership once it's working properly. And yeah, having as clean a possible transit system would be the biggest priorities.
Yeah, we need to provide sustainable funding for our city's current climate change master plan. We have a great plan with some of these initiatives that my colleagues have mentioned, but we have not provided sustainable funding, just ad hoc funding for certain initiatives. And some of those initiatives within that plan would actually save the city money, such as retrofitting our buildings. We also need to reimagine our transit system, as many of us agree here on that, to attract new riders and incentivize people out of their cars. We need to contain urban sprawl, and we need to support developments, high density and mid-rise developments close to our transit station. So those are some of the things that I think we need to do for the environment.
Absolutely agree, Jessica.
So go ahead, Aria.
Yeah, I'm gonna touch on a very simple issue in our ward right now. We have a ton of green spaces in a ward, but the state of those green spaces is worse. The city hasn't invested enough money into the green spaces. When it comes to building more units in the city, we have to make sure that on top of those developments, we are going to have affordable units. We are going to affordable units close to the transit, and we are going to encourage the residents to take a transit. So just a simple task that can be done, but it hasn't been implemented in the city in the last decade. So that's what I'm committed to do that if I get elected.
Yeah,
John? Sorry, Hussein, I'll go to John, come to you.
Our
Go
new
ahead.
ward boundaries now include the Ottawa Airport, which is the Hunt Club Forest Industry. The Airport Authority wants to develop the lands there, and the people around that area don't want those trees cut. They have maintained it as a park as it was growing in. There was a petition that was floating around that 21,000 signatures want that to stay there. Well, that's going to be one of the biggest issues we face with the environment here in our ward. We also have other green spaces that are generated by the NCC. We need a collaboration with our MP and other MPs in the Ottawa area to keep these spaces safe. Like we saw the experimental farm, they're taking step by step. Now they got the hospital being built there. That's a lot of controversy there.
John, I'm just going to go to Hussein here.
Yeah, just to touch on what John and Aria said, we definitely need to invest in our parks and our green space. We need to create safe spaces for our seniors, youth, and all residents of Gloucester-Southgate. If we look at two parks specifically in our ward, if we look at Elizabeth Manley Park and Trappers Park, those are two parks that have been neglected. If we look at the basketball courts there, and then we look at basketball courts across, Orleans, Greeley, Manotick, those are state-of-the-art parks that are attractable and usable. So we need to create more 15-minute communities where people can live, play, and work. And at the end of the day, environmental policies then become economic policies. When people see investments in their community, entrepreneurs will then come and invest and create businesses, and it creates a vibrant and healthy community.
I think it is all really a holistic approach, though. I mean, as we talk about high-density housing, affordable housing, and transit, those things have to go in conjunction with the green space, where it's all coordinated, where people are going to be living. They have retail and other amenities nearby, so that with the barrier of green space, I love the South Keys area as far as the green space just everywhere. You can't walk 5 minutes without hitting the park and being able to wander for hours without big traffic.
Exactly. We should have that design in all new build neighborhoods. And not just that, imagine neighborhoods where you've got duplexes and triplexes. In the bottom of them, you've got stores and shops. And then right out the back, just like in Greenboro, you have that woven in green space to create an entire connected community. And then you can have bike paths and everything going right in behind, connecting the neighborhood that way as well.
Yeah, if I could jump in on that, actually.
Mixed-use area is going to create. The planning committee has approved the South Keys, or is underway, the South Keys mixed-use community, and it's going to provide more green space. It's going to create a transit-friendly environment with stops at Greenboro and South Keys, and that's what we need. We need more convenient. We touched on it earlier. LRT is not going to be used if it's not convenient and reliable.
Jessica, you wanted to...
Yeah, well, I think what my colleague there, Hussein, is talking about is the redevelopment of the South Keys Shopping Centre, which is a huge project that's going to become underway under the next few years. Back in 2015, we did a community design plan for the area where we really imagined that space being retail at grade, housing on top, and amazing and robust public spaces that interconnect into our fantastic Greenboro pathway system, great cycling facilities, creative ways to cars to move around that site. And I do have to plug the Better South Keys Centre, which is a new grassroots advocacy group in our community that's doing yeoman work on that file, and I look forward to working with them.
Yeah.
Anyone else want to jump in before we go back to Taylor to wrap this up? No? Okay. So Taylor, you'll have 30 seconds to wrap up on this topic.
Thank you. You know, John was right. Green space in this city is often slowly clawed away, and frankly, I think it's terrible. I fully support and will protect the airport forest. I hate the fact that they're looking at getting rid of it, that the airport authority is being obstructionist, and that even at the federal level, McGuinty hasn't helped us. But no matter what, we need more green space, and we need to weave that green space with bike paths and make it accessible for everybody.
Okay, excellent. All right, we'll move on to the next topic. Ron Keays, you'll start off this next topic. You'll have 45 seconds. Given that, we've talked a lot about public transportation. You've mentioned cars. Well, people are still driving their cars, and a lot of people upset about the condition of our roads. How do we ensure that the worst roads get the attention they deserve? And of course, scheduling that around other infrastructure, which has been a frustration for many residents.
Yeah, I mean, that's an ongoing challenge, especially with Canadian winters and Canadian roads. There are new technologies which allow us to patch certain parts, but I think that, again, a lot of it ties together. I mean, if you, for the new developments, we take that money to build the extra infrastructure out. And yes, resurfacing the roads. I know there's a grading scale as far as which roads need the most attention. Leave it up to city planners, but give them the tools to do what they need to do.
I don't agree that we should leave it up. Oh, sorry.
Oh,
I was going to say, I don't agree we should just leave it up to city planners. Knocking doors, the number one consistent complaint in the ward is the roads. The roads. This is the number one complaint. And at the end of the day, it just needs action. It needs action from council to prioritize resurfacing the roads. I mean, there are roads in the ward that are fully alligatored. It makes no sense. Hunt Club gets potholes every year, so many potholes that it takes out tires constantly. We just need to do it. It's really that simple.
Yeah, just to touch on Taylor, I think what needs to happen is a councillor who's committed to our community, who's involved in our community, who provides consultation, who's there for their residents. We need our residents to report these issues, but also City Council needs to work with our teams that are on the ward to make sure that these potholes that we touched on Hunt Club are fixed, because at the end of the day, with the rise in cost of living, residents can't afford to fix a tire or fix a rim. It's really affecting them at the end of the day.
Yeah, I'll just touch on Hussein's point. These potholes it may seem not a serious issue for many people, but in our ward, it's just it caused so many troubles for residents, for seniors, for children, and everybody asking why the city council can implement a rotational plan to fix a road. And that has been missing in our ward for the last, again, decade or so. So we need these issues to be fixed. The seniors, the children, they don't feel safe to go out, and we hear that over and over again from them when we are door knocking in the ward.
Yeah, I won't disagree. We need to better fund our infrastructure maintenance programs. I mean, that's the real issue here, and I think it's going to be a shifting priorities in how we spend our money and where we're investing in new infrastructure. Maybe we should be reinvesting that in the infrastructure that we have and maintain it properly.
John,
Yeah,
so you want to
we
get
just talked about climate change. We have to be smart about this. How do we adapt our roads into making it a greener, provide a greener environment? Like, for example, you have to, when you do a repair on the bike lane, you don't tear up the road. It just doesn't make sense. But the 5-minute community, the community involved, they have to fix it up.
So fixing the roads is a citywide concern, and definitely engagement with the community to find out what roads in our area need to be fixed is important. I mean, the more data we can provide to the people who are fixing the roads, the more effectively they will be able to prioritize what the trouble areas are.
Yeah, we need more vibrant communities. At the end of the day, we need to improve and promote a healthy living lifestyle. Right? If you look at Johnston Road, for example, the east side of Johnston Road, that's a perfect example where we can get a bike lane, where we can have more people walking and cycling and reducing our gas emissions.
Yeah, active transportation can be a part of this conversation as well, right?
Well, but a bike lane, when you're already parallel to paths what you can bike on, like if we have a limited budget, why are we going to spend money putting in bike lanes where there are perfectly acceptable bike options, 50 meters?
We just talked about climate change.
It's a good example of how we could better coordinate our projects, which was also part of this question. I mean, when we're redoing our roads, we should be investing in active transportation at the same time and not after the fact. It's much easier to design a road and design it well for active transportation when you're doing it all at once as opposed to trying to retrofit it after the fact. So that's when we get those segregated bike lanes or raised bike lanes that are much safer and will encourage people to actually get out of their cars and onto their bike in our community. So I think better coordination of those projects is a big part of that.
Then you have issues like Bell Canada coming in and digging up a new sidewalk and new pavement right after you'd done the resurfacing. It doesn't make sense. Who gave them the permit to dig it up?
But that's the thing too, right? There's a lot of communities and a lot of neighborhoods in the ward, they would love more bike paths so they can actually connect and get off of their cars, but they don't have them. And if we can, when resurfacing roads, if we can look into ways to put those in a way that doesn't obstruct traffic, but gets other people connected, then I think we should 100% do that and include that in the plan.
Anyone else want to jump in here? We still have just over a minute. No? Okay, we'll move on to the next topic then. Thank you very much to RK. Oh, yeah, sorry, final 30 seconds to Ron. Thank you.
Well,
Ron, to wrap it up.
I mean, I am a fan of leaving certain solutions up to the experts. I mean, the people who have all of the data, our job really is to gather all of the information from our constituents and our own eyes and pass that on to the people who are in charge of doing it. And yes, it does need to prioritize the environmentalism and accessibility and all of those sorts of things. But I do think, fixing the roads before putting in new bike paths on roads that already have it would be a waste.
Okay, thank you, Ron. Jessica, you'll have 45 seconds for the next topic to open it up. I believe each of you have already touched on this a little bit, but I want to delve into it a little deeper, and that is affordable housing. And many people are saying, outside of affordable housing, more in particular, affordable rental housing. What solutions can you bring to the table to help bring this forward more than we've seen? We've called it a housing crisis and emergency here in our city. Jessica, 45 seconds.
Thank you. So Gloucester-Southgate ward is actually really uniquely positioned right now to be part of the affordable housing solution. We have a few pieces of publicly owned land close to transit, including the Greenboro Park and Ride, where we'll have more control over that development, and we can look for opportunities to build affordable housing and affordable rental housing as well. We also have land over near Hetherington, 1770, where we've just built a beautiful new Boys and Girls Club. That is also publicly owned land that is ripe for development for housing, deeply affordable housing, and other mixed types of housing. You know, we need to get serious about this crisis, and we need to support high-density projects close to transit. And so the redevelopment of the Better South Keays Centre will also be a big part of that, where we can use inclusionary zoning policies to make affordable housing a part of that plan.
All right, I open it up to everyone. Ariel?
Okay. The city needs at least 70,000 units in the next 3 to 5 years. I'm not sure why the city council hasn't pushed for those units to be built, especially around the transit that is going to be more affordable for the residents. Right now in Ward 10, we are at the situation that I have many clients who are getting a constant eviction notices from the landlords. They want to evict them, and the life is going to be more and more harder for them. We need the first job of the next council. It has to focus on more affordable, not for the next 10 years. I always say for the next 3 to 5 years, we need 70,000 affordable units to be built around the transit and make them affordable for the residents.
So we have buildings downtown Ottawa that are half empty because people are work from home. We need to know what those buildings are going to be doing in the next few years, and we need to be involved in that process. If we can increase high density housing downtown Ottawa, where we already have the transit, and those buildings are already built. We just need to retrofit them to make them suitable for habitation. So that would be the first thing. And then, yes, as far as affordable housing, it's just incentives. It's the private sector that builds the houses. It's the developers that do that. So we need to make it affordable for them to build high-density housing and make it less affordable for them to build, big single dwelling homes that don't benefit the community as much.
Yeah,
Jessica was saying that we need to densify in the neighborhood. But the thing about densifying is that a lot of time those huge towers start going up. I mean, look what's gone on in Preston. And I think that what we need to focus on when we say densifying is we need to focus on duplexes and triplexes and letting existing homeowners convert their homes into those type of duplexes, triplexes, or having basement apartments. And we need to let them do that a lot easier. And though I think developing the green space in the area where there isn't much use of it, that can be great for housing. I think we also have to be careful. I don't want to lose more green space to new developments, especially if those developments aren't going to be very accessible. We don't want to see more of the single-family home developments like we see in Riverside South. They say that we're going to need well over 100,000 homes in the next 10 years, that Ontario is going to have a population boom. And at the end of the day, we just need to do that, and we need to incorporate that in our city vision so that we don't lose neighborhood character when we're building this density, right? But that we can still get that density in there.
Okay, thanks, John. I'm just going to go to John here.
I talked to one resident in Gloucester-Southgate. She's worried for her kids in her 20s about getting affordable housing. I think we have many facets that have to be looked at. I took part as a volunteer on the federal lands development project on Huron Road, a 600-unit project, and I pushed for 20% affordable units in the development. The federal mandate was 10%. Using your voice has value, and this is what I have to offer.
Thank you, John. Hussein, go
Yeah,
ahead.
I think what you touched on, Derick, we are in a housing crisis, right? It's not only across Ottawa, but across Canada as a whole. It's affecting all forms of housing, whether it be affordable housing, home ownership, and even homelessness. What needs to be done, and I don't think we've touched on this, is holding developers accountable, right? Using such tools as inclusionary zoning to ensure that there's enough units for everyone. We also need to ensure that we have enough green space implemented in all these developments. And finally, work with the builders to ensure that they're not pricing out residents from the market.
But I think we can also work with more city-owned housing. Why not do that again? Why always sell land off just to developers? And on top of that, why not develop communities like with NORC-type principles involved, which are naturally occurring retirement communities where housing is made to be accessible right from the get-go, where shops and community spaces are built right into that density and affordable housing.
We have to talk about, in Ottawa housing, we have to talk about safe housing.
100%.
I talked to a resident that was threatened, and they call the police. The landlord calls the police. That's all they do.
Yeah,
and they keep pulling the fire alarms there, and it's tying up the fire vehicles all the time because residents are scared. We need to get some kind of security implemented and use the tools we have as the landlord. We have to push in bylaw to start cleaning these places
I think
up.
we
I
just to
do
touch on
disagree
that.
Ottawa, that we should own the houses. I think the private businesses do a very good job of these, and working with developers is of course important, but their bottom line is money. Our bottom line is value. We do have a budget to balance, but we want to provide value for our citizens, and it's up to us to do that, not up to the builders. So it's all in the incentives we provide them. At the end of the day, they're going to make their money. Are they going to make their money doing what we want or doing what they want?
You're going to have
just
another
to
hearing
touch,
date on your
just to
hands.
touch what John said, I would have loved if we had a question regarding safety. We need to create safe homes.
Yep.
We can't have isolated areas where we need to build vibrant, connected communities. Right now, when I'm knocking on doors, the number one concern that I'm hearing is safe community. If you look at our ward, only 46% of our residents feel safe walking outside at night, whereas the city average is 73%, right? So we have work that needs to be done. We need to be able to break that barrier and bridge the gap. We have great programs in our city that are working on this. If you look at the Ottawa Police Hoop Stars, run by Jafef Mazaruka and Shabeen Tucker, they're breaking the gap, they're bridging the barriers between police and our residents, and they're basically just having conversations, right? So I wish we would have loved if we can get a question on safety.
All right, thanks. That does it for this topic. Jessica, you have 30 seconds to wrap up.
Thank you. Councillors need to be champions for affordable housing. We need to push and support large-scale projects where they're appropriate. So we've got opportunities in Gloucester-Southgate Ward to be part of the solution to build high-density affordable housing close to transit, but we also can be a part of that missing middle, that gap, the infill opportunities that my colleagues have mentioned. We're right for infill, but we need to bring the community along in those projects, protect the character of the neighborhood, but prioritize building affordable housing.
All right, thank you very much to all of you. Okay, that does it for the debate portion here today with Ward 10 Gloucester-Southgate. We will now give you an opportunity for your closing statements. A reminder, each of you will have 60 seconds for that, and we'll go in reverse order. So we start with Jessica Bradley. Jessica?
Awesome. Well, thank you again, Derick, for moderating today's discussion, and thank you to all my candidates here today for participating in this democratic process. I have proudly worked with City Councillor Diane Deans for the last 10 years serving the residents of Gloucester-Southgate, and I'm proud to have done so. There's so many opportunities right now in Gloucester-Southgate ward, opportunities for affordable housing, for better connectivity, for better transit, for more green spaces. It's really exciting. This election, we're going to see at least 12 new faces around the council table, and getting to know City Hall is a challenge. It's going to be a steep learning curve for anyone. What I bring to the table is experience. I know the players at City Hall, I know how to get things done, and I would be an effective leader on day one. I'm bringing a fresh perspective with a strong foundation, and I hope that on October 24th, I can count on your support.
All right, thank you very much, Jessica. Over to Ron Keays. Ron, you'll have 60 seconds.
Yes, I've spent the last 20 years collaborating with, interfacing really between customers and a corporation, just dealing with bureaucracy, trying to get things done, and I can bring that expertise to this role. The community is very important to me. It has the lovely. It's a lovely area. It has a lot of things in place, but it does need things that do need to be fixed and worked on. There are new warehouses that were being approved up on Conroy, which we should be prioritizing housing over things like that. So those are decisions that have already been made that we would try to fight back to the extent that we still can. It's just a matter of listening to the constituents and finding out what their pain points are. And I would bring any of my ideas to my constituents before I bring them before council. Because it's, collaborate with my constituents and then collaborate with council and bring it forward from there. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Ron. Taylor Houstoun, you have 60 seconds for your closing statement.
Thanks again, Derick, and to everybody. It's been a pleasure. So to you, I ask, do you want repaired roads? Do you want better bus service? Do you want the airport forest left intact and a focus on green space? What about affordable, accessible housing without ruining neighborhood charm? Do you want someone putting a stop to the increasing gun violence in the South? Someone who will be transparent in city business? Someone who wants to build a community here? Then vote for me. I'm not a fly-by-night politician, and my concerns are your concerns. We all make up this ward, and I'm doing this because I didn't feel represented. I didn't feel like my voice was heard. I want you to know that I am available day and night. You can call me at any time at 613-981-6479 or email me, taylor.h.ottawa@gmail.com. Get out and vote October 24th. Let's change the ward. Let's build and rejuvenate it.
All right, thank you very much, Taylor. John Redins, you have 60 seconds for your closing statement.
I want to thank Rogers TV and our moderator for having us. I have shown in the last 10 years that I show up to the table and speak. During the last hour, you heard us talk about issues that debated most likely in the next 4 years. When it comes to transit equity is an important acknowledgement, affordable housing, climate change, and related to mobility. I want to be that person standing up for the people of Gloucester. We're missing people with accessibilities. The age group is growing in our community, and they're being affected by our services. I have an open mind and think beyond the box. I'm encouraging you to check out johnredins.com, sign up a volunteer, donate, or even ask for a sign. Thank you, John Redins.
Thank you, John. Hussein Mahmoud, you have 60 seconds for your closing statement.
Thank you, Derick, and thank you, Rogers TV. I also want to thank my fellow candidates. I wish you best of luck moving forward. You've heard a lot of ideas today, so I want to emphasize why I'm running. I'm running to make our community safe, keep taxes low, and be our community's voice and advocate. As a husband and father of 2 young children, I know the struggles and challenges that many families across our ward face. As a son of immigrants who was born and raised in this community, this city and community mean everything to me. I'm asking for your support on October 24th so that together we can make our community safer, keep taxes low, and serve as our community's voice and advocate. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Hussein. All right, Aria Alavi, you have the final closing statement. You have 60 seconds.
Again, thank you, Roger CV and Derick, for hosting this event. Today's debate showed that we need a city councillor in office for the next 4 years who has crystal clear plans for the ward. I have plans for affordable housing, fixing issues with road and community housing, investing more into the OC transport, investing more in green spaces, and reducing the crime rate in city. On top, I'm the only candidate in the race that has imposed 2-term limit on himself. Past experience has shown that when we have city councillors and mayor in office for decades, nothing will get done. The city needs new ideas and visions every 4 to 8 years, and I'm proud to offer that to the residents of Gloucester-Southgate. Thank you.
Excellent. Well, thank you all. Really appreciate your time today. Thank you for joining us here on Rogers TV. And of course, thank you at home for joining us. Always appreciate you tuning in. You can find more of our debates on our website at rogerstv.com and of course on our YouTube channel. A reminder that Election Day is October the 24th. Thanks so much for watching, and we'll see you next time.